I think we just get in such a bubble that it seems like, I don't know, I guess I just kind of operate under the assumption that everybody does it the way I do it. Not ignorantly or anything, just kind of like, well, this is how I do it. This must be how it's done. And I love hearing other people's, process where it's like, wow, I didn't even think about that. Or like, or I learned something new or get inspired. It's pretty great.
Yeah, it was nice. So we were talking with Josh Trout. He was kind of showing a little bit of stuff and how we did his work there. And he's like, this is kind of my secret sauce. He's like, I normally don't share this now, but since we're on, he was like, this is how we did this technique and went into it. And it was just fascinating to hear.
Wow, that's awesome.
So, and then of course, we hear everyone how they do their research and what they find out from it. So it's just a lot of fun. So it's nice that we were able to shine some light on the community and everyone can kind of share their stories.
For sure.
So John's making everything live. Obviously, we're live on Facebook. If you want to share anything on social media, feel free to do that now, and we'll just keep going. So, or you can just go, yep, you can find me on ball caps and bagpipes.
Oh yeah, how would I? We're live. Well, by the time I figure it out, my time slot will be over. Will I be able to share it afterward?
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah,
Okay.
You can share it on Facebook, and then John's gonna put up on YouTube the next day or two. Depends how much time we have. So then we'll have it on there as well too. So.
Oh great. Oh good. Okay.
John's muted, so he doesn't know it there. He must be just typing away. John, you all right there? You got a thumbs up? Okay. So you're muted. So that's the reason why I asked, John. 2 seconds. Okay. So what caused you to move from the Bay Area to Nashville? Is this more for the music scene?
Yes. Well, it was. What music scene there was here. Yeah, no, I mean, Ray, as I was saying, Ray, my boyfriend, plays in a band. JD McPherson is the name of the artist. And now let's see. So with us here, 4 of the 5 band members live here in Nashville now. And they would mostly get together to tour and then record once in a while. But then Ray started recording. There's an artist here by the name of Dan Auerbach. I don't know if you've heard of the Black Keys. He's like, that's his thing, but he has an awesome studio here. And they he just puts out some really good stuff. And Ray started recording with him, and it got to the point where if he wasn't on tour, he was here recording, and he was just like never home. And we just thought, well, maybe we should just move there and be in proximity and do more stuff. And, you could actually come home at night sometimes. So we made the move, and then good thing we live in a house that we like, because that's pretty much all that we've seen since we got here for the most part. So yeah, can't wait to get out and explore a little bit more at some point.
I imagine so. And I imagine this has got to be gut-wrenching to move away from your Giants.
It's gut-wrenching to be away from the Bay Area in general. But yes, I mean, just the ability to get on the train and, sketch on the train and then get off and go to the ball game and draw at the ball game and go out for a drink at, I have friends bartending at places and go for a beer after and see friends. And I mean, just the whole experience is, I miss it a lot. And family, of course.
Of course, yeah. So yeah, I didn't realize you sketched at the games as well, because we talked with Herm, and he's the guy that goes to the Mets games, and he went through the season tickets, and he actually draws there, and he has a little art club, and I thought that was the coolest thing.
That's so cool. Like at the ballpark, he has an art club?
Yeah, so he goes, and what he does, he has season tickets, and he buys like 20 game packages, and then he moves around the stadium, and then like about an hour or 2 before the game, he goes, I'll be in this section here, come join me. And then he says, people either will sit with him or they'll bring their artwork to him, and he'll help them out with his art. And that was the coolest thing to do. That
is really cool. Oh, that's such a great idea. And if I were back home, I would probably try to do something like that. Maybe when we go back. I say when, because there's some part of me that refuses to think we're going to stay here. So,
there's that, or there's, the whole movement to get a team in Nashville. So you can just throw your heart and soul behind that. So then you wouldn't have to worry about it.
That's true. And it's looking good. And I hope it does come here. I've done a little bit of work with them already so far. And I really like what they're doing. And I think it would be a great place for a major league team, logistically, geographically, all of that. But we'll see.
It's a tough one. So yeah, I grew up in Seattle, so I have the big pull for Portland. So everyone's always like, Portland can do a team in there, and then I feel Montreal deserves another team again. And then, but he said, where do you find that fourth team? And, people say Austin. I don't know.
Austin would be cool too. Really, I just don't even care. Anywhere would be great, to be honest. But
Be cool. No, I'm a big fan of the old Nashville Sounds logo, where it's the guy using the guitar for the bat. I think it's great. So yeah. I really love old logos. So
yeah, that's a good one. They really play that up too. We when we first moved here, we got to go to a game for my birthday, I think, and the whole scoreboard is shaped like a guitar, and that whole theme is very prominent. It's pretty great.
Awesome. John, are you all set there?
Yep, we're good to go. Welcome, everyone, to the second of 3 interviews we have coming up this evening. I am John McKellar, one half of Ball Caps and Bagpipes. Hello, in particular, to Matt Mutton, who has commented already on the stream saying he's watching, a good friend of Ball Caps and Bagpipes and host of the excellent British Baseball podcast. So do check him out. There's my co-host.
Yep, I'm Jason Durr. I'm a former league president and Baseball Scotland Hall of Famer. I'm also the owner of Durr Classics, and we have a special guest host. Tim Goggins has joined us again because we have an amazing guest tonight. Anika, introduce yourself.
Hi, I'm Anika. Hello.
Anika, thank you so very much for thank you for joining us. It's a pleasure to have you on and a chance to speak with you. It's just fantastic. We always like to start with the same question. And given that you're the first woman that was spoken to in this project, I'm interested to see how you'll answer this. Could you tell us about your baseball background growing up? Did you follow a particular team? Did you play growing up? And if so, to what level and what positions did you play?
Well, I declined to answer on the playing part because to what level is like, I think maybe my dad was the only other person that ever saw me play for very good reason. No, I grew up, well, let's see. My grandparents are from the San Francisco Bay Area, and I would spend, all my summers, a lot of weekends out there. My parents worked for the airlines. So when they had to move from the Bay Area to Salt Lake City for the airlines, I would just go, any opportunity I could take to go spend time with my grandparents, I would be there. And that was usually in the summertime, and they were big baseball fans. So the baseball game was always on, the Giants game. And then, that just, I guess, and I've said this before, that really the sound of baseball on the radio, I loved that before I really even understood what was happening in the game. It was always on, and just the sounds of the familiar voices that I loved. And it just reminded me of being with my grandparents. It was very comforting. And then, as I got older, I started to understand the game. And then when I finally moved back to San Francisco right after high school to go to art school, it was just pretty much right around the time that the new ballpark on McCovey Cove had been built. So it was so much more accessible. It's a beautiful ballpark. And I would just go spend any day off. Bleacher seats were like $10 then, back when I was young. So it was really easy to just go, spend an afternoon or an evening there. And that was 2000. Well, it was right before the 2002 season. So that was a really hot year. And just a really fun year to be a Giants fan and be in the city, when the Giants went to the World Series that year. So, and then just from there, I just, I've always been a fan. And then, of course, baseball history. And, my grandfather was a newspaper columnist, and he wrote several columns that told stories about moments in baseball history and really interesting figures through baseball. And so I kind of got interested in that. And then the writing of Roger Angel and, like really great stories in baseball that really inspired my want to share those stories how I do it. So those things kind of came together that way.
Excellent. Do you have any favorite memories or particular ball games that stand out in your memory from watching the Giants growing up?
Yes, so many. I guess, well, two really stand out. of course, the entire 2010 going into the postseason was just out of control. And I got to go to game 2 of the World Series that year. And Matt Cain was pitching, and I'll just never forget, I'd been to that ballpark several times, but walking in that night, it was like a different place. The energy was insane. I mean, I get like goosebumps just thinking about it. And it was so loud and just so energetic. And we got to our seats, and first pitch came, and Matt Cain threw a strike. And it's, the first inning, and he threw a strike, and the place went insane. And you couldn't hear, I was trying to yell at the person I was with about something. You couldn't hear. It was useless. There was no talking to each other throughout the game, but it was like he just won the game, and he just pitched a strike. And it was like that, nobody sat down the entire game. Nobody ever sat down. It was just so much fun. And then another favorite game of mine was totally not a memorable game. In fact, I think the Giants lost, but it was a game that it's a long story, but I had since become good friends with the voice of the Giants, John Miller, and he texted me one day. I had a lot of work to do, but he texted and said, Dave Fleming is going to be on assignment today. If you want, you can take his chair to draw. And I had so much work to do, and I was like, sure, I'm on my way. I just like ditched everything and put all my drawing supplies in my backpack and showed up, and got to sit in Dave's chair in the broadcast booth and like set out all my drawing supplies and have my little snacks and my drink, and just sitting in Dave's chair and getting to draw everything in the ballpark from that seat. And while John was calling the game, which is like the voice that was most familiar to me because he's been calling since I was 16 years old. It was just completely surreal, and it was all I could do to my face just hurt at the end of that day. And that was just it was a beautiful day. And yeah, so I think those are my 2 favorites.
It's awesome that you mentioned John Miller, because John Miller was the voice of baseball for me when I was a teenager and I first found baseball. He was on the Sunday Night Baseball broadcast with Joe Morgan. And I vividly remember watching Yankees Red Sox game at Fenway. Sorry, Tim. Mike Mussina had a perfect game going until the final strike of the 9th inning before the Red Sox got a hit off him. And I think it was a 3-2 count. It was a perfect game through 8 2/3 inning, and I think it was a 3-2 count. They got a hit. But I remember Mike Mussina pitching that night, and that was when I became a Mike Mussina fan. And the thing that I vividly remember the most about that game isn't watching it, or even the fact that David Cohen was the Red Sox pitcher that night. It's John Miller and Joe Morgan calling the game. And even though I haven't seen that game in a very, very long time, I can still remember almost, there are parts of that game that I can remember to the words of their call. John Miller had a very special talent for storytelling, I thought, growing up. So I think I was kind of lucky, and our generation watching on 5 were lucky to get that every Sunday night. So it's awesome that you mentioned John Miller.
That's so cool. I love hearing that. I can't wait to tell him that. That's just so cool that, you could be all the way in Scotland and that's the memory that you have of that game. That's so great.
Yeah. Jason, do you want to go more into Anita's art? I know there's a lot to get through. And
we'll get Tim's question. So, being from Seattle, I watched a lot of Mariner games in the Kingdom. How bad was Candlestick Park?
Well, I got my eyebrows back finally, so and I can see again. It was cold. It was really cold. It was my last game that I went to there. I was still a kid. I think I was 13. And then I think I had only been to maybe 2 games there before that. But the last one I went to, I just remember the wind. It was like, just the wind and like deep in your ears, when it starts to hurt like inside your ears, but it was like June. So, it was like, there's no reason it should be that way. But I do remember the wind very distinctly. And then I remember going out to the car after the game, and it was like, whoa, there's the wind. It was like, for whatever, it was so windy, but somehow we were still protected comparatively to what the wind was like outside of the ballpark. So I am a big fan of the new ballpark. It doesn't, it's not warm in most evenings, but it's so much better.
And then I was asked, did you ever go sneak over to Oakland watching the A's games, or were you just a diehard Giants fan?
Oh yeah, I love the Coliseum. I know it's like I just love it. I love it because it's so Oakland. Like, you know, it's just it's real and it's no frills, nothing fancy. In fact, there are a lot of things leaking, you know, a lot of things that maybe you should or shouldn't sit on or step on. But that's kind of what I love about it. But what I really love is that despite it being like that, the fans are just, I mean, that's the most fun because the energy in Oakland is so great. I mean, I love Oracle Park. I think that's what it's called now.
Changed a few times.
But yeah, but you know, I'll be honest, since 2010 really, and then 2012 and 14 maybe, it's just, I feel like the crowd has sort of, I don't know if they've just gotten complacent or used to it. And it's a lot of like business casual, you know, there are people having like their business meetings or, you know, so sometimes you'll sit in front of a bunch of guys that are just talking about finance the whole time. It's like, they're just ruining it. You know, so, and a lot of like ballpark etiquette that's kind of overlooked there, like a lot of selfies in the middle, like a batter in the box, and they're like, you know, getting all, it's like, yeah. So, and you don't really see that in Oakland. At least I haven't. I feel like it's more like baseball purists and really hardcore fans, and the energy is always really high. They've got the drums and the flags, and you know, I love it. So
I definitely love that about the Coliseum, that it looks as if it's been built and then never really tended to since. It's like a snapshot of like a time that doesn't exist anymore. Tim, you'll be familiar with the terracing and stuff like that in football that used to be around. It kind of harks back to that, kind of, you know, cramped into this really rickety old place, watching the sport that you love in the purest possible form.
And that name for it, the Coliseum, turning into a ruin.
Yeah. right. I know it does have kind of like a post-apocalyptic, like, you know, like humanity's been wiped out. They had the zombie war. Humanity's starting to come back, and this is like the first baseball team to come back after the zombie apocalypse. And it just happens to be in Oakland. That's kind of how it feels. But with hot dogs.
with hot dogs, yes. So as an ask about your artwork, and we'll touch on your book because my daughter's a huge fan. I've sent you tweets over my daughter. Yes,
so cute. She's adorable.
If it wasn't so late, she would definitely be in here sitting in the interview because she definitely wanted to say hi. So I love the book.
Tell her I said hi.
I was going to ask you about your prints. Did they come from your experiences with your parents and going to the games? Because you have quite a wide variety of prints that either have family involved or experiences at the game, and I think it really connects with people. Has it just come from your experiences at baseball games?
Yeah, I mean, I think some of it comes from experiences growing up and just household experiences that I have since learned are shared with a lot of people. So like I said, growing up, you know, being with my grandparents and having the ball game on the radio and different things that would happen. Like my grandfather would always talk to the game, like, you know, as if anyone could hear him. But, you know, anytime, like the one thing I could always hear him saying is like, you never walk the leadoff guy. God damn it. Like he would just get so, you know, and realizing those kind of things later on are sort of shared. Like other people have funny memories of their dad or their grandfather doing the same thing. And their grandmother, you know, my grandma, there's one illustration I have of a woman with a rolling pin, and she's watching the ball game and she's like mimicking the batter. And I distinctly remember my grandma, it wasn't a rolling pin, it was like a spoon or something, but she had like come out from the kitchen to check the TV, and she was kind of like, and there's like mashed potatoes on the end of the spoon. And I remember watching her do that, and that stuck with me. So there's those, but definitely drawing at ball games. Even if it's just something I scribble down, I'm not trying to really make great drawings when I'm at a ballpark. I'm just scribbling the little vignettes and stories that I'm seeing. And you know, if I find one particularly great, I will turn that into an illustration later.
Yeah,
I was going to ask on that actually.
Tim, go ahead. Ask your questions.
When did you start taking a sketchbook to the ball game? Is it something you've always done, or is it just something you thought one day, oh, I might do that?
Yeah, no, it's not something I've always done. And I feel like what an idiot. I wasted so much time not doing that. Let's see. I want to say I started in like 2016. So like fairly recently, maybe 2016, 2015. And it kind of coincided with becoming friends with Mr. Miller. I started working on a story of my own while I was doing some work in animation. I just kind of started developing my own story and doing my own character development. And I just chose a story about baseball because I wanted it to be something that I liked. And so that was kind of part of the research, and the reference was like watching baseball and drawing it for some of these characters I was developing. And then I posted some on Instagram, and this is before I knew him. And that's actually how I got to know him, was Instagram. And he commented on something and reposted something. And anyway, it kind of like took on this life of its own. And these were just like my doodles. And so then I just kind of kept at it kind of for fun, and also to kind of keep working on this story. But then it was like, what have I been doing all this time? You know, I'm not really good at paying close enough attention to keep score. I always loved the idea of it. And I brought a scorecard with me a lot, but then I'm such a daydreamer, and I found that I'd be paying attention to like some interesting thing going on in the dugout, or something on the field, or like something going on with the family in front of me, or the two old guys conversating next to me. I would get so involved in these little things happening around me, the whole experience, that it would be like, I'd look down at my scorecard and look up, and it'd be like, well, I just missed like 8 plays. I have no idea what happened. So it's a perfect way for me to take in a baseball game. I pay more attention, but I'm also, I don't know, it's just a great way to sort of record the experience and get ideas. And there's just always so many interesting things going on. And it's great too, because people are not moving a whole lot. So, you know, it's good models.
I think that's one of the things that they certainly appealed to me, is that it's a bit like we discussed earlier, was that it's kind of everything else that's going on at a ball game. And, you know, when you are on this side of the Atlantic, you don't get the experience of being there. And actually, I found that your illustrations and those little vignettes that you're talking about, they help to transport me far more than seeing an illustration of the thing I can watch on television. And I think they're really kind of powerful cultural pieces, as well as just nice baseball-related work.
Wow, I've never even thought of it that way. That's really cool. I love hearing that. I just didn't even think about that. You're right. I mean, if you're not able to go, you know, the television cameras don't really focus on that kind of thing all too often. And well, this year is just
Yeah, welcome to watching baseball in Britain. It's just like that now.
We all just look like a bunch of cardboard cutouts all the time. May as well be, I'm sure. Oh, well, you guys are just gonna all have to come out here when everything is safe again. We'll all go to a game.
Yeah,
bring your sketchbook.
So I've been to a game with Tim already. We had a blast.
Oh, did you go to the exhibition game in London?
Yeah, we went to the London series. So
hey, excuse me, those weren't exhibition games. Those 2 Yankee wins counted.
That's true.
I feel like they were exhibition games. Yeah.
So you'll appreciate.
Forgive me.
Did you watch the games on TV?
Did I?
Yeah.
I watched the first one.
Right. So it was a lot. So most people here were pretty happy with it because it was actually a major league game here. But as a baseball player myself, you could see that it wasn't a real game. Like you definitely see the backstop wasn't the mandatory 45 feet. They obviously hadn't checked into the wind conditions, and the ball was definitely flying a lot more. And there was a lot of things you could really pick up on if you played baseball to go, that was it, because the pitchers were just off. There was something definitely wrong there. It was until about halfway through the game that fielders were starting to pick the ball up off the bat normal. So it was completely weird. So when you say exhibition, it really did feel like that.
Yeah, I mean, I guess maybe that's why I just blurted that out, because like you said, something was definitely off. That was noticeable, but I wouldn't have been able to pinpoint why. I just figured maybe conditions and jet lag and, just playing on the other side of Earth. I don't know.
Well, it was that, and it was kind of like Oakland, where it was a baseball field jammed into a track stadium. So it was really just not well thought out. And so when they talk about doing this in Europe, another place, and I'm going, well, I'll go because it's still baseball in Europe, and I'll make the trip. Is like the field conditions are just not right. I mean, even though they're playing on turf and didn't even bounce right. It was really interesting to see that.
Huh. That must have been interesting to see in person.
It was, yeah. So it was a lot of fun, but I think me and Tim spent the whole time chatting the whole time. So look, there's another home run. Okay, we didn't miss much. So.
Oh, that's why most of us go to the game anyway.
So let's talk about your book. So obviously you came out book, the pandemic hit, and then you guys joined the pandemic book club. How did that come around?
Oh yeah, I have my handy dandy mug right here. Yeah, that was great timing, huh? Just pour a couple of years of work, bust your ass for a few years, and then you finally get to go out and show the world, and then you don't. That was kind of interesting timing, but there's nothing I could do about it, and it ended up being pretty cool. There's a lot of things that, of course, I don't wish this was happening. Nobody wishes this was happening, but it is helpful to see the good things and experience good things coming out of it that you can say wouldn't have happened otherwise. So that the Pandemic Baseball Book Club is definitely one of those things where, I think I was just so focused on getting out on the road, and there was a lot of publicity stuff and logistics and booking hotels and all these things. You're just so focused. And then, there's just so much to do that you really, even if you wanted to stop and try to make friends with a bunch of other authors, none of you have time. And apparently it's kind of competitive. This is my first book, so I've never really had that experience, but, coming out with a baseball book in the spring, that's the time, so there's only, and that's usually when baseball is happening. So there's usually only so many radio slots, only so many podcasts, only so many, and it just all stopped. So in one way, baseball not being played, at first it was like, oh my God, this is terrible. But then it was like, well, there's a lot of open spots for all of these authors to talk about their books because there's no baseball. It was such an up and down, but the beautiful thing is that we met each other and we started this thing, and we started doing online events and author to author interviews. And it's just kind of like blossomed into this really cool thing. We just partnered with Sabre to kind of start doing more things with them and kind of have a bridge between us and the research, speaking engagements, different things like that. But the other founders, well, everybody in the club, but the other guys that we've kind of all got this started have become some of my closest friends through this. And which is interesting because everything is, through Zoom and, and I've always wondered, like, are they really like 3 feet tall, or for all I know, they don't have legs. I don't know, but it's been a really interesting and rewarding and great experience. I will say, as far as, if you have to release a book in the middle of a crisis, I feel like I've really come out lucky. My experience has been a positive one.
Is there any player that really stuck out when you did the research for the book?
Any player from the All-American Girls League?
Yeah, All-American Girls. So.
Oh yeah, gosh. Oh, so many.
I read the whole book twice to my daughter. That's bedtime stories, and I was so excited to do that. So.
Oh, that's amazing, man! I just love that. And these are things, again, like things that I didn't really think of. Of course, I guess I could have imagined, but just making the book, it was like such a focused thing that there's things that happen, like, that you read it with your daughter, or I've seen pictures of little girls with it, or other, whatever. Just seeing these things is so, so wonderful. As far as players, there's just so many incredible athletes in that league, and special women, but I really enjoyed interviewing Jean Faut because I think her story is so extraordinary. And, she was the first baseball player, and she's, I think, the only baseball player, professional player, man or woman, to pitch 2 perfect games in a career. But she was just like such a I guess a genius, you could say. I mean, the mathematics of pitching that existed in her head, I just imagine these little like wheels turning, kind of like a casino slot machine where it's like the cherries, the dice, the bar, you know. I just imagine it like like all these things coming together where she would just remember what she pitched to this person last time, remember like what angle, what she did, where it went, like how, you know, all, and just right off the top of her head without having any sort of reference, she could remember everything. And she was just a phenomenal pitcher with just these like crazy capabilities, mental capabilities. But I really enjoyed interviewing her because she's lost most of her hearing. So I had to interview her in person, and there's a lot of like lip reading and things, but she just, the fact that was a little bit of a barrier. But then once she got going, she started telling me this story that made it into the book as a comic. Like, so sometimes when I had these really, as you saw, for anyone who hasn't read the book, when I had like a really great story, but it didn't quite fit in like the overall narrative as far as, you know, like linear or subject matter, I would turn it into a comic book panel page and just kind of stick it in. So her story made it in a story about one of the coaches for the Rockford Peaches in a diner. But it was hilarious because she just got so into it and like hoisted herself up out of the chair to tell the story. And it was amazing. So I have really great memories interviewing all these women. But that one really stood out for me.
That's awesome. Tim, do you have any questions here? And I think we're going to ask some other stuff, and we'll open some baseball cards here. So we've got plenty of time. But I thought I'd let Tim jump in and ask a question or two.
Yeah, I mean, I think my previous kind of comment about it was probably my question. But I mean, there's so much I'd ask Anika. Kind of, how is she so good? Would be obviously the I think, you know, obviously it's demeaning to say you make it look effortless, because it definitely isn't. But I always think that, because you talk about the sketching, and then your kind of final pieces still have that beautiful kind of fluency, like a sketch. And I wonder, is that lots and lots of hard work, or is your final piece so kind of connected to the original sketch that's how the fluency comes in? Or, you know, how do you work up a sketch to a finalized print, I guess, is the question.
That is a good question. Well, I guess, you know, well, the process mostly is that I will always start, I'm not brave enough to start in ink almost ever. I would say like 80% of the time I don't start in ink. I have a green color ace pencil, or depending on what color I have, sometimes if it's down to a nub, I'll switch to red or something, but it's usually green. And I'll just scribble like the basic movement, because I feel like that's, if I start in ink, you know, a lot of people say that's how you just get it down, you just commit, you're bold, you know, but for me, there's like a mental block where it becomes too precious and I'm too focused on the line rather than the movement or the figure or the emotion. So if I could just like do some green pencil, it could be just totally terrible, but it's what's happening, you know, for the most part, just the basic angle, the basic movement, whatever. And then I'll just pull out the pen and just try to stick with that initial thing as much as possible, because I've done it a million times where I think, okay, I just want to fix that, or maybe I should make that better, or maybe I should, you know, and I'll get in there and start fiddling with it. And I imagine it's kind of like a song, or, you know, the more you mess with something and tweak, sometimes you can improve, but really I don't know that I've ever really improved on something the more I just fiddled and fiddled and fiddled. I feel like it kind of, you're actually chipping away, and you may have a more perfect technical drawing, but it loses some sort of emotional quality. And for me, that's my favorite part. So, you know, there are times where maybe I think, wow, that's kind of a crap drawing, but I love their expression, or I love the emotion behind it. And then there are times where I make something where I feel like, well, technically that's much better than what I'm normally capable of, but I don't feel anything. And unfortunately, I think, you know, there are so many artists out there, particularly working in animation, who just do like amazing, beautiful work. And sometimes I find myself comparing my work to theirs. I'm like, God, I suck, you know. But then I realized like, well, that's beautiful. And you can convey emotion with just like one shadow line. And that's the thing that's so impressive to me. But there are people who just make these like really, really beautiful pieces of art, but I don't quite know how to feel or I don't feel anything. And that's fine. And maybe it's just something is being lost on me. But I guess my point is that I would always rather try to emphasize that part than the technically good part. And that's probably honestly because I'm not that technically good. So that's it's either my excuse or my process. I don't know. But thank you. And I feel like I have a million questions for you, Tim, but I don't know if it's if it's allowed. But I am such a fan
go
of
for
yours.
It. This is your episode. You do what you want. And me and John have already said that we're definitely going to go and do this another time and have everyone back on again so we can do a longer interview. Yeah. I know everyone's trying to do stuff, but please feel free to ask him a question. Oh,
that's awesome. Well, I mean, I'm curious well, Jason, I know you grew up in Seattle, but I'm very curious of Tim and John, how you became, well, John, you just mentioned the game that like really kind of solidified your being a fan of the Yankees, right? But Tim, how did you get into baseball? And then how did you get into baseball art? You probably already covered this did you cover this already? Am I being redundant? I just want to know.
To some extent, yeah. But the short answer is really, I was doing the First World War art, and I was looking for something else to get into, and baseball had always been kind of something that I was marginally interested in. So I decided to get a bit more interested in and do some art from it. And around about that time, I stumbled across your Instagram and kind of, so probably within the second or third baseball illustration I'd ever done, I met you, and kind of the community. I realized there was this kind of broader community out there, and it wasn't this totally niche thing, and that there were other people doing it. And yeah, kind of just gone from there.
Wow. Okay. So I didn't know that you were kind of just starting to do baseball art when we had met. It seemed to me like something you'd been doing forever because you were so good at it and you seemed like you had such a deep knowledge of it.
I think I guess it's the kind of the academic background is one of the things I like to do is the research bit. And so I wouldn't ever do anything that I didn't feel confident that I was going to be able to put out there with, you know, like a 99% certainty that I wasn't going to get pulled up on something stupid. And so maybe that's where it kind of, I tricked you.
I was duped. No, that's perfect though. I mean, I feel like that quality inherently makes you a baseball artist, even if you had only done 2 drawings, because that is, I mean, that's such a huge part of baseball, and baseball people, not out of being mean or spiteful or anything, but they really just can't, I mean, they're watching and they can't wait to tell you that you got something wrong. Or that, you know, like that their patch was on the, or like that year that had the white outline on the logo, not the black, you know, like those little details, particularly visually, when you're putting something out there that hits people immediately. It's not something that they have to read through or anything. Yeah, I feel like you really, even if it's the simplest thing, you really kind of have to be on it. So
yeah, one of the things that, I mean, I don't know if you have the same thing, is when you're tracking down, you decide to do something from a game in the 50s, and then you realize, but the stadium's going to be in the background there, and now I need to work out what billboard was there, what color was that billboard, because there's a black and white image of it. So you then have to go and search for other kind of adverts from the same company, if you can find them, what the colorways that they were put in. And then it's even just finding, because a lot of the stadia throughout that kind of, particularly the era that interests me, through the kind of 10s, 20s, 30s, to a lesser extent the 40s and 50s, those stadia are changing quite frequently. There's bits moving around, they're making alterations to the actual kind of the field, and you think, right, well, I'll do this illustration of 1956, but you didn't realise that the stadium that you're illustrating changed in 1955. And it's things like that, and it's part of the enjoyment of it for me is kind of that. The kind of I said to the guys earlier that the kind of drawing of the baseball figure is much like I have a very similar approach to you. I kind of do a very quick kind of pencil thing, do a couple of kind of alterations, and then ink it, and then that's kind of it done. Most of my time when I'm doing a painting is spent, right, so what would the scoreboard be at that point in the game? Where do I need to, who's at bat in my mind? At what time is this? So where is the sun coming from? And it's all these kind of things. And I think, am I being anal about it? And I know the day I go, do you know what? Sod it, I'll just put the shadows in here. Suddenly I'll go, well, the sun doesn't come from that direction.
Yeah, that was actually a day game, and you have made it at night. And
you're just space to the baseball art fraternity.
Yeah, you didn't spend 4 hours researching your 30-minute drawing. Yeah, exactly. But that, I think it works because that is kind of the fun part. You know, that is sort of, it's kind of like solving a mystery in a way, or I don't know, just doing detective work. And it's really fun when it's difficult to find. I mean, sometimes it's frustrating, but the best part is if you dig long enough, suddenly you'll find some weird random photo from something that on, you know, doing a search that has like, I mean, I found when I was doing the book, I found the photo I needed for a certain moment, you know, this for a ballpark in South Bend, and, you know, and I didn't even really end up drawing the whole thing. It was like a slice. Nobody would have known the difference. But honestly, I knew I would know.
Yeah.
But I ended up finding the image I wanted, searching for something else. It was like I had taken a break from searching for it and was searching for something else and scrolled down. And it was like, so not really, I mean, I put in really great search terms that should have brought up this photo, but then I put in, you know, like rubber duckies, and like, here comes the right image. It was like, what the hell? And there it is. And it's like such a score. It's so fun. So yeah, I understand. Greg Kreinler is a great person to talk to about that kind of stuff. He gets really into it. He more so than I do.
Just from his paintings, you kind of look at them and you go, how the hell has he worked that out?
Yeah.
His work just amazing. I would never have the patience, I don't think, to the kind of layers and then everything that he does. You kind of look at it and you think, wow, I mean, that's just total kind of commitment to creating that image. The research that must go into them as well. That's I think when you're doing it yourself, kind of an element of the research, you realise how much more research has to go in to get that image.
Yeah. Yes, exactly. It's not just drawing from a photo and comparing the values, or, you know, I mean, he's done like what we're talking about, going in to find out, well, what color was Babe Ruth's jacket in this? You know, I mean, you could kind of guess, but you don't really know, and you'd have to like look for all these clues, or, you know, in newspaper articles of the time, sometimes they would give descriptions like that, like wearing his blue wool coat, he stepped out onto the field, you know, things like that. But you just really have to dig for that stuff. But it is really fun. It is fun. It's funny because I put, and you yourself, I mean, your art is beautiful, but you're not doing photorealistic stuff, and neither am I. But so it's like, sometimes I think it's even funnier that we put in this much research, and then what comes out of me is just like a goofy cartoon, or, you know, what some people call cartoons. I guess it's illustrations, but, you know, it doesn't really look dignified, I guess. But I don't know that people know how much time I put into just like getting a certain color right. It's silly. Part of the fun.
Well, ladies and gents, we have so much more to get through, and I hope that Tim and Anika, you'll come back on ball caps and bagpipes in the very near future, and we can expand upon this. We're running a bit short on time. There's a couple of...
I said the other guest, I told him we were running a bit late, so we're fine.
No worries. Excellent.
So
I've got a couple of...
Hear about your experience there, so how you got into baseball, because she was asking about yours.
We'll cover that on ball caps and bagpipes. I really want to get to a couple of comments here and then finish up, so we don't keep Grant waiting for too long. Tad Richardson is watching, and he wants you to stop bad-mouthing the dome, Jason. Perry Barber says that's some liquor supply on the shelf behind John. That's actually, that would be Tim's liquor collection. Confused by all the beards. Love the baseball with the shot glass as a stand for it too. And then Tad has an inside joke for Anika. Would you describe your work as fine art?
No, they're just basic. They're just basic drawings.
So
that's my inside joke answer.
So to quickly finish up, Anika, what do the Negro Leagues mean to you?
Oh wow, I mean, what do they mean to me? It's huge. It's bigger than baseball. It's bigger than. I mean, it's such a massive cultural, just a beautiful legacy of not a slice in time. It is a slice in time, but it's so significant in what it stands for, what it represents, and how it has continued through time and how it's rippled through time and the possibilities it's created, things that haven't changed, but the whole reason it existed, I think, is the most important part. And, it is a shame to think what we missed out on, for having it have to be that way for a certain amount of time. But the stories and the legacy and the legends that come out of that are such a huge part of the fabric of America, as baseball is. And I'm so, so happy to not only get to be a part of this, but the fact that these stories are now finally, so overdue, making their way into the overall story of baseball. And they're filtering in as these stories are not only just important, but just as huge and just as fundamental and just as influential as the stories that we do know. And I love that they're starting to be heard and told and having an effect. And I love that people are starting to know about it. So I'm really, really lucky that I get to do this show with everybody and see all this amazing art and share these stories. It's awesome.
It's been absolutely awesome speaking with you tonight, Anika. Before we open some baseball cards here, would you like to plug your social media and the website?
Well, sure. Let's see. My social media handles on Twitter and Instagram are, now this is important, there's a weird letter in there, Anika Drawls, DRAWLS. Because my cousin used to say drawing. And then my website is just my name.com, AnikaOrrock.com, ANIKAORROCK.com. And really quick, since you're talking about baseball cards, I just want to show everyone this baseball card. Tim made this. It's a baseball card of my boyfriend, Ray. That's it. I just wanted to show everyone that because I love it.
That's an awesome card. Let's open some more, Jason.
So I had two questions before we go. I'll make it quick. How gutted are you that you didn't get to throw the first pitch at Yankee Stadium?
I don't want to talk about it.
Fair enough. Like I said,
next year. I'm keeping my fingers crossed that the opportunity still stands next year. Put it that way.
So unlike some people, were you actually invited, or is this?
Some people. Some orange people who shall remain nameless. Yeah. I was actually invited, and that was delightful. That was a fun. I gotta say, that was a fun tweet. I tweeted that one. I was like, some people were actually invited, and nobody even knows who I am. So suck it. But yeah, that was gonna be really cool, and I'm hoping I get the opportunity next year.
Awesome. And then I wanted to know, you've been interviewed by Sports Illustrated, Forbes, The Washington Post, Rolling Stone, Saber. The list goes on and on. Where does Ball Caps and Bagpipes interview rank with them?
Rolling who? I don't even.
Exactly. I'm hoping we're way high up there. All right, let's open some cards. So I've got 7 packs of cards. You get to choose which pack you want to open, and we'll talk about the players. So we got 87 tops.
Yes.
Yes, just I'm automatically yes. All right.
You know what this means, Jason?
Oh.
Yeah. If I can... Actually, all right. Yeah.
Chew.
I was just gonna say, does that mean when somebody eats the gum?
Yeah, I get to eat the gum. There's the gum.
It's always stuck to something. I don't want to watch you break a tooth online.
No, I've done it. I've done.
Jason, are your internal organs even going to survive this project?
Yes. And luckily, I have my whiskey next to here, and I'll wash my mouth out with that. We'll start with Pete. Yeah, he was rated
Texas
back in the day. Fun fact about Pete: never played in the minor leagues. Went straight to there.
Wow. Was that just like an emergency situation or what?
He was college player of the year in like '86, and immediately I don't think he played in the summer ball, and then come spring training, he made the team from there.
Wow.
He was on Team USA in '84 with McGuire, Will Clark, and all the rest of the guys there. If my memory serves me correctly.
Quite a team.
Don Schultz with the Indians. I don't think anyone remembers him. We've got a Hall of Famer here. Ricky Henderson with the Yankees, though.
Oh.
A god among men.
So, Mariner. Well, we got Mike Moore here. So there was a first-round pick that we squandered. So
imagine that, Jason.
I know. We did a lot of things.
The more things change, yeah.
All right, we've got Mike Laga for the Cardinals. I don't think anyone remembers him.
I don't think he doesn't look like he has a neck. He probably didn't last long without a neck.
Yeah. And
it's kind of hard.
And his jersey's pink. Obviously, he's not very high up on the list because they gave him the pink jersey.
It got washed with the bubble gum from the Topps pack.
Charlie Kerfeld. I don't remember him.
Is that Astros?
It is with the Astros, yes. And they've got the Kilo uniforms on. So.
Mm-hmm.
We got Randy Neiman, who's not to be confused with Randy Newman. So.
But you've still got a friend in him.
Exactly. Jesse Orozco. It was a long time we worked with him.
He's still pitching, isn't he?
Yeah, I think so. To Julio Franco.
That's a good face.
Ron Renicky.
He's the Red Sox manager, right?
Oh, I don't know. Tim, you have any clue who manages the Red Sox these days?
Ron Renicky.
No one at the moment, are they?
Ron Renicky's the interim manager, I think, technically, but it's him. I think. But I've just imagined that. It's quite possible.
For the Angels? I don't remember that. All right. This guy's interesting. Dave Gumpert. I've never heard of this guy. Clearly spring training pick.
Someone needs to send that one to Baseball Card Vandals. They could definitely do something good with that.
Jim Sundberg, longtime catcher. So I remember him.
He looks like a catcher. He's
got a Red Sox for you, Tim. We got Roger Clemens.
Hey!
Clemens. One of the ones I actually recognise from that.
That's a good one.
Won his championships in a different uniform, though, didn't he?
So where does everyone stand on the Hall of Fame for him?
No.
Roger Clemens?
Yeah.
No.
I think that needs another episode.
Right. Yeah. we did discuss that with somebody else, and we were discussing the junk ball. Actually, it was Blake Jameson. We were talking about steroid era, and he was saying he was all for any of the guys that were doing steroids to get in. So, but that might be due to his relationship with Mark McGuire. So,
yeah. I mean, that's another episode. Let's talk about that next time.
so speaking of Mariner #1 draft picks that were bust, Bill Swift was another one. So.
Who did you trade him to that ruined them?
Oh no, he was a #1 draft pick. He was like probably like in the top 5. Yep, I think it might have been #1 overall in '84 for them. So
yes, Perry Barber has confirmed that Ron Renicky is the current manager of the Red Sox. I got it right.
All right.
See, I pay attention to more than just the Yankees sometimes.
Well done.
Darryl Motley for the Royals. I don't know, he was a bit player. He played all of 5 games for the Braves the year before. Rob Murphy, Reds.
Hey, Rob. Yeah. That's like a frame model shot.
And our final card is Dave Smith. So.
Poor guy. You couldn't have a less memorable name in baseball.
All right, I'm gonna get the gum in a second, but I'm gonna wish you guys all well. Anika, absolutely, thank you so much for taking the time to come and chat with us. It's been an absolute blast. Tim, thank you for coming on. I think you had some amazing questions, Anika, and listening to you guys chat, it was pure honor on my part. Like I just sat back and listened, and it was amazing. So both of you guys, thank you so much.
I would echo that. Thank you so much to both of you for joining us. Tim, thanks for sticking around and hanging around for this interview as well. We need to do this again. You guys need to come on Ball Caps and Bagpipes, and we're going to expand on this because it's been such great fun spending this time with you both.
Oh, it's been awesome. Thank you guys so much for having me and for doing this for the show. And thank you for bringing Tim on to surprise me. That was a really great surprise. I appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for having me along. And yeah, to crash Anika's interview.
No problem. All right. No, seriously, like listening to you guys chat was just, it was like jazz. I was just sitting there to let you guys flow. It was awesome. I really enjoyed that.
I don't like jazz, so I'll say for me it was.
Okay, that's a whole other episode.
For me, it was pure grunge.
So
I'll take that.
This film actually came out pretty well, so it's only came out in 2 pieces. So we're gonna go from there, and we'll do it, and then we'll say goodbye.
Will you be able to say goodbye? No.
Just all dust. Okay, it's like 33-year-old baseball cards. Mm-hmm.
You're a trooper, Jason. You're a trooper.
Bye.
Thanks for joining us, guys. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.